Well, hello and welcome to the Internal Mobility Podcast, where we explore all of the ways for you to reach your potential here at Randstad while also making this giant company a little easier to know and understand. Clarissa Rodney is our guest today. Clarissa is the Vice President of our STIM practice. Welcome, Clarissa.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So VP of STIM, you're the only one with that title around here. What does that mean?
Yeah, thanks. So being the VP of STIM Concept and Strategy is basically it's a new kind of idea, not necessarily STIM being a new idea within our business, but the fact that we have leadership around the concept of STIM. And it's really because we know that there is huge opportunity in industrial and manufacturing logistics in that segment of skilled trade and industrial management. And so obviously MEJ and Doug want to ensure that we have a leadership focus as well down to our producer focus around this concept and making sure that we can grow this business within the OTS division.
So some additional support in a really hot part of the market.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But you haven't always been VP of STIM. What's your career story?
Oh, wow. Well, so I have been here this summer for almost 14 years. And so I started in the Columbia, Maryland branch in manufacturing logistics as what they called then a sales consultant, which is a staffing manager now. So I worked very closely with Dave Mayer. Dave Mayer was actually my regional leader and would go on visits with me when I started. And so loved and learned a lot about manufacturing and logistics because I really did not know much about it coming into this role at that time. And so I, did this typical sold new accounts, grew our contingent business, our temp business. I think we started at like 40 TW and then in the first year grew to over 100. And it was hot. It was hot at the time. And so then after doing that, I always had an interest in just like expanding in mentorship and peer mentorship, right, in my role. And so I was doing a little bit of that locally. Dave gave me the opportunity to do some of that in some of our other districts within our region, like new hires in New Jersey that were coming in because I was all about gaining new accounts. And so I was trying to help people how to gain new accounts. And lo and behold, after about 2 years, I got tapped on the shoulder by Dawn McAuliffe. And she said, "Hey, I heard about you. And would you like to do some mentorship and training on a national level?" And that's when I became part of the operations team to be a new hire facilitator under manufacturing logistics. So very exciting. Got to work with new hires across the country in OTS, manufacturing logistics, and did that for a few years and then was asked to grow or really kind of raise my hand. I raised my hand on some interest because I had been working on some projects and I worked and moved into a project manager role. So for operations. So I worked as a liaison from the business because I knew the sales piece of it and then worked as a liaison to our IT partners internally to grow projects. So worked on items such as like our assignment level onboarding, our text hub that we have in RFO, recently helped rolled out the Randstad app when I was a project manager in that role. So I was a project manager and then a senior project manager and then a director of project management all in about 6 years. So I spent a lot of time in that kind of segment of our operations. And then about 2 years ago, I got tapped on the shoulder again by Dawn and said, "Hey, do you want to do within operations?" So still part of her team, but VP of business intelligence and market strategy. So that was my first VP role. So I was super excited. And that was in October of 2023, I think. Yeah. And 2022, excuse me. And that was one where I really feel like all of my previous career, like pieces came together, Chris, because it's like, the business, but then being able to tell a story of the business through numbers and through data to help make data-driven business decisions was like, okay, this is it. It's putting it all together. So I had, and I supported across the business. So I supported all of our presidents. So Doug Hammond and OTS, Jill Eubanks, Cam, And then even at a little higher level, supporting Dawn and Mej as well. So I did that, and then got tapped on the shoulder again and was asked by Doug to come over and lead the STIM team. So, I mean, it is phenomenal to work for a company where you could and can have 6 growth opportunities and pretty much never even apply for it. Like, obviously I applied, but every time I was tapped on the shoulder just based on doing my current job well and just expanding and raising my hand for other small things. And then just people being able to recognize like my strengths and maybe even pushing me. I would never thought a girl who wasn't huge in math would be the VP of data. And Dawn was like, I know you could do this. So like, I'm stretching you here. And it actually was one of my most recent favorite jobs. So yeah.
Clarissa, we see it here all of the time. Trusted with little, trusted with much. Every time you take good care of what's in front of you, what you have impact opportunity on, like that circle tends to get wider. What a beautiful career story.
Thank you. Thank you. I was trying to say, how can I fit all that in like a few minutes? So I tried my best. So
you did great. Now, leading the STIM group, there have been some changes. They've come back to the branch operation, and I got to think that lends itself to some career opportunities. What does that look like in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, we're super excited in 2025 to really align the STIM concept and our STIM pods, what we call our STIM pods, back to the branches and their regional locations. So, you know, what we have done with the STIM concept group now is that there are certain regions throughout the U.S. that will have a STIM pod. So they have a dedicated team members in upwards of 2 to 3, and in some pods we have even 6 team members that are dedicated to filling skilled trade and industrial management roles around perm. So they only focus on perm because it is a little bit of a different sales cycle, is a little bit different of the candidate population. And you really do need people who are dedicated to that role. And so we actively right now have 24 pods across the US, but we will be growing to 32 by about mid-year this year. So a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, a lot of opportunity. Now, are there certain geographic areas that you have in mind?
Yeah, so right now we're starting with the pods where we have seen strong contingent and temporary business. So it's definitely a balance, right? We want our customers to feel comfortable with working with Randstad already on the contingent side. And then we know that there's an opportunity to elevate and grow in our perm and direct hire. Now, we still do perm and direct hire on some of our contingent roles. So like forklift operator and welder positions and assembly positions, those are still absolutely being supported by our retail team members. But then some of our higher level positions like CNC machinists, lathe machinists, maintenance mechanic positions, maintenance positions, that's a little bit of a elevated position. And so we have those STIM pods. And so right now we have pods in Texas. We have 3 pods there. We have pods obviously in Florida and Georgia. We have a very strong, market share out in those areas. We have a pod in Minnesota. And then we have some throughout the Northeast and New Jersey, Long Island. Shout out to them because they've always been strong in the Northeast. And then Ohio as well. So again, we're spread out, but we are, and you will probably see the consistency being that we had a strong contingent footprint, and then we decided to grow and have a focus in perm around skilled trade.
Yeah, sounds like a great example of our specialty framework, right?
Absolutely.
Narrow focus to give the best experiences in this part of the segment, this part of the market. So you are looking, I would guess, for folks that have a strong interest in perm specifically.
Yeah. So what we've seen is that a lot of people who are in the STIM pods actually started as retail team members, right? They started as retail team members. They became familiar with their area. They became familiar with growing contingent business. That's actually how I did the same thing when I was in the branch. I started with contingent and then we started getting into a perm unit. So kind of the same thing, like old school talk of like the perm unit. That's kind of what your pod is. But if you have an interest in doing direct hire and perm and you're sitting in like a retail seat right now, absolutely there's opportunity for you to build perm in those contingent roles. So like I said earlier, a forklift operator, like if there's perm opportunity in those positions, an assembler, if there's perm opportunities, start there. And then, like I was saying earlier, kind of do well there. And then there's opportunities to grow into that direct hire on the skill trade side. So someone who has an interest, if you haven't been doing perm already, start a little bit, dibble and dabble, and start learning those skills and competencies around that sales cycle of perm and direct hire.
That's great. Somebody's listening to us right now who's going to hone those perm skills, and then they're going to shoot me an email letting me know that when you're ready, they're ready and interested. And what I heard is in the first half of this year, you're going to be making some investments.
Absolutely. Yeah. And their local regional leaders are all excited about it too, because it really balances both sides of the house in our OTS. We want to be growing in contingent and temporary TW, but we also want to be growing in our perm. And so that's where the pods and the retail team members come together so nicely under our regional leaders. So
beautiful. All right. So before you go, Clarissa, tell us what your Randstad why is.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So my why, Chris, is really about the opportunity that we have here at Randstad. Like you said, I mean, we are a big company. And so sometimes even myself, I've been here for 14 years and I meet someone, I'm like, wait, what's your division again? Like, what do you do here? And it's exciting. But then even on top of that, what I love about our company is that we have a huge emphasis on diversity and having equal representation internally in our population, but then externally as well, and making sure that we have that diversity initiative. It's not just a talk, it's really we walk the walk. As companies, we're always learning on ways to do better. But I feel so strongly that the leaders that I've had, the managers that I've had, the mentors that I've had have been able to, just recognize me, see me for me, and having that representation throughout the company. And I want to be that for people, right? Like I want them to look at me and say like, oh, I see myself in her, whatever is woman, man, brown, non-brown, like all of that. But it's really just having that representation here. And that diversity piece is what keeps me here. Also, not to, sound too cheesy, but I can sleep at night. Like doing what we do, Chris, being a partner for talent, you can go to bed and just say like, even if I'm not directly placing someone to work, the work that I do every day helps people find opportunities, helps people, support their families, like helping them get and find an opportunity within a job. Like that has been since the day I had my first placement. I was like, a job today, and so that has kept me here as being a partner for talent directly when I was doing it, and then indirectly leading a team to help them do that every day. So no
shortage of meaningful work under this roof, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your day with us.
No problem. Thank you.